Well, Raisin Cane started as a reading of a piece written by Harry Clark, who's a cellist, actually, but he likes to write on the side. And he wrote a piece about the Harlem Renaissance, specifically about Jean Toomer's book, Cane, C-A-N-E. It's a small book, but very powerful in that Jean Toomer changed the way black folk were writing about themselves in the early 1900s. So it influenced the Harlem Renaissance in such a way that Harry wanted to focus on that book and bring it back to life, which is where Raisin Cane came from. Avery Sharpe, who is a good friend of mine and a jazz, can you hear that? Of course, it's my other show calling. Douglas from the King Show. So Avery Sharpe, who wrote the music for Cane, is an old friend of mine. We did Bubba and Brown Sugar together. So this is like, how old was I when I met Avery? 20? Something like that. It was a long time ago. And he brings me in to read the material while they're playing it. And it was so rich in its music and content and the poems and the history and that I kept moving to the music, walking across the stage. You know, it got a lot more mobile, and before we knew it, it had morphed into more of a performance piece than just a reading of the text. And we've done it over the last 3 years all over the country at universities, regional theaters, all kinds of different venues, because it's only the 4 of us and we can fit anywhere. But also for young people like to 5th grade, which I thought was too young. I was like, please don't make me go in front of these 10-year-olds, but they were mesmerized and listened, and we had talkbacks afterwards, and we realized that this show reaches a lot younger than we thought. And then people that actually had parents and grandparents of the Renaissance era. And the highlight of my performing this was at the Apollo, actually in Harlem, when I could say on Lenox Avenue at 125th Street, and it was down the street, down the way, you know. So I wanted to bring it to Atlanta, and I wanted to mount it because we've never got a chance to really hone it the way we wanted to. And a big part of the show are the images that we project on the back, which is kind of our set. And those images have all been redone, and they're beautiful. And our director, Dan Guerrero, this is also a very mixed group of people. I mean, Latinos and blacks. Harry Clark is white, his wife is Russian, and this also is the true American experience to me. And we end by claiming America as being all of us. And another goal of mine in the show is to show that we don't just have, we go from Harriet Tubman to Martin Luther King, and that's always bothered me. You know, that we miss Reconstruction, that we miss the Harlem Renaissance, that we miss the political philosophies that were going on before the 60s, that the 60s was, those mentalities were derivative of Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, and W.E.B. Du Bois. We don't know that. That's just real basic information. And this started, my passion for this started when I did the Afeni Shakur book, and she told me that her then husband, Lumumba Shakur, his father was a Garveyite. And I remember going, okay, I'm gonna have to look that up. I was always looking up stuff when I was talking to Afeni, but I didn't want to stop her role. And once I got into looking up Marcus Garvey and the Garvey movement, I realized that the derivative of that was the Nation of Islam. I mean, with the Panthers and the Nation of Islam, that school of thought, that black pride started earlier, nationalism, and moved back to Africa, and then the amazing UNIA and the whole ship movement and what he did, the battle star, the everything was amazing. This line of I mean, he was a big thinker and a very robust kind of personality.
Now, do you play a particular character with this production, or you're a singer who represents whom in this
Well, in this piece, because there's so many readings, they're excerpts from speeches, W.B. Du Bois and others. There are a lot of poems. Thank God. County Cullen, Claude McKay, Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, Gwendolyn Bennett. I morph. That's what I call it. So I morph a lot. I morph into Jean Toomer. I morph into some of the characters in Cane. Because as I'm reading it, they have different rhythms and it just falls into it. So I would say I'm morphing throughout the piece. I do sing some and I do dance. Now I dance in an improvisational way because Avery wouldn't let me choreograph or set any movement because he wants me to vibe with them. They're jazz musicians, so I call what I'm doing jazz acting, because he has not allowed me to do my 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 1, 2. I have to feel it, go with it, do like this when I'm ready to end it, wrap it up, because they're vamping, and every night it's a little different.